Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for American Horror Story Freak Show Episode 6, Bullseye, and I am just loving this season so much, guys. This season is so amazing. I'm really loving just every single plot line, and this really is proving to be the best season. This was by far the best episode of the season, and everything is just so interesting about this season. There's so many interesting storylines. I love the way certain storylines are going. There were some great twists in this episode, definitely, that I really appreciated, and I really like that they're doing that. I mean, they're definitely doing a very good job in kind of tricking us with the characters. I mean, we got like a really big reveal tonight. We found out that, we got a new romance going. There are a lot of things I definitely really liked, and let's just get to it, because overall I thought this episode was amazing. So, Elsa in this episode. This episode pretty much focused on everyone, which I definitely really liked. Elsa and her crew, we find out why the episode's called Bullseye right away, because she has this large bullseye into the big tent. She's planning on using this bullseye in an act of hers. So she talks about fate and how everyone's just spinning on the giant wheel. And I thought that was really interesting what she's talking about, however, she has learned how to stay off of it and become the master of her own fate. And I understand why she's saying that. I mean, pretty much everyone is under Elsa's control, if you think about it. I mean, it makes sense because there's all this kind of drama going on. There's all this tension going on between different people. And with Elsa, she's really found a way to get away from it all. She does have her own drama going on, but she is pretty much just the ringleader of it all. So I really like that Elsa said that, because it really made me think, you know what, Elsa is definitely true when she says that she really doesn't have much drama right now. She barely has any drama. So I thought that was definitely very interesting. So basically, Ethel comes in as if she's planning on working this act into the show, and, she pretty much thinks that Elsa wants to work on this, and I love the dynamic between the two of them. I gotta say, they're one of the best dynamics on the show. Kathy Bates and Jessica Lange just work so well together. They work so well in Coven, and they work great in Freak Show as well, and I love that they are genuine friends. And when Ethel comes on the show just gets so sweet, especially the last scene, which we'll talk about. But Elsa talks about, I would know this is actually for her new TV show, which she still is under the impression that Stanley is telling the truth. She doesn't realize that this is all a hoax and that Stanley is just lying to her and everything. And it's really sad because Elsa, of course, thinks this is true and it's really just going to backfire on her. And I honestly really did feel bad for her. I did. I mean, the thing that the show does so well is even the characters that are crazy, every character this season is pretty crazy, you still root for them, and I love that definitely, and I think that's awesome. So we find out that it's actually Elsa's birthday in this episode. It's her birthday week, and everyone thinks that the twins have left the show. They pretty much think the twins have gone and that they're not a part of the show anymore, and everyone's freaking out because they were the headliners. By the way, there's no Dell or Desiree in this episode, which I was fine with because they focus on pretty much everyone except them. But we all know that the twins were really handed over to Gloria and Dandy by Elsa herself. We know that. And Elsa's trying to cover it up as best she can. Elsa claims that they just ran away. But people are like, well, why they just run away? Because, Dot had a really good singing voice. So why would Dot just run away from it all? Dot was really loving all the fame and everything. So they don't really understand why they just run away. So Elsa really has to be careful of what she's saying here. And I thought that was definitely very interesting. So Gloria and Dandy, they're then eating dinner, and Gloria brings up something very interesting to Dandy. She says she's gotten Dandy a present, which are condoms. And that's really funny because, of course, she thinks that he might need them since the twins are in his presence now. But Dandy assures his mother he would never violate them, and we find out that he actually loves these girls. Like, he genuinely loves them. He wants to marry them. And he says, a really great quote that I definitely really loved. I love that he says to his mother that he is a freak. He says, they're freaks and I'm a freak too. And I think that's great because he is a freak. He is a freak in the sense that he loves the idea of killing. He's into the idea of killing. He is into murder. He's into the idea of being a thespian. He eats up all the performing. And one of the things I love about the show is that freak is sort of like a metaphor for someone who is obsessed with something. Danny's obsessed with killing. Elsa's obsessed with fame. Even though they do have deformities, I wouldn't say that's why they're a freak. I'd say they're a freak because of their morals and the way they deal with things. And I think it definitely is very interesting. So he tells Gloria that he plans on marrying the twins and the three of them will be together forever. Completely naive. We know this is not going to work. You can just tell. So Elsa's sitting on her throne and watching all the welcoming all the gifts from her stars, and everyone's feeling kind of glum that the twins have left them because they were their headliners and they all had really good relationships with them. And Jimmy asks if they'd say anything before leaving, and Elsa grows furious and demands everyone to have fun or else she'll put one of the freaks on her bullseye wheel, because no one's really trusting her at this point. Jimmy doesn't really think they just randomly leave, because Jimmy can kind of tell what's going on here. So I definitely thought that was very well done, that Jimmy can tell what's going on, and Elsa's just trying to cover this up as best as she can. She can tell that, yeah, they are kind of onto her, and I think that is definitely very interesting. So then we get a very interesting twist. Something that I was really looking forward to in this episode was the plot said Paul, the illustrated seal, indulges in a secret romance, and we find out what that is. Paul and Elsa have a secret romance going on, and I thought that was very surprising that it was Elsa, and I love this because it gives Paul some really good development. It makes us really more interested in Paul, and I definitely really enjoyed that in my opinion. So basically, they have a secret romance going on, and Elsa doesn't want anyone to know about it, which I guess is understandable. It makes sense why she doesn't really want anyone to know about it. But again, as we've heard before, Elsa's ashamed of the freaks. We know this. We know that she's ashamed of them. We know that she thinks she's above them. We know that she thinks that she's not a freak. She hates being called a freak, and, I think it definitely is very interesting that that is still going on. So Paul ends up leaving Elsa's tent, and he finds himself in the bed of another woman, who is Penny. Of course, is that candy stripper who'd found her way to the freak show before. I loved seeing her character again. I love this because the thing with Penny is that I knew we were going to see her character again. I'm like, they really showed her a lot. She was heavily shown in the first episode, and then she kind of just disappeared. So I'm like, okay, we're definitely going to see her again, and we do. Because basically, he admits that he's actually in love with her, and that he wants her to know him as a man before they have sex again. However, her father comes in, and her father is pissed at her for doing this. Her father's like, oh, there's no way that it's going to work. There's no way that you're going to actually have a relationship with him. Like, that was definitely very big and everything. And basically, that was definitely very crazy what's going on there. So he continues to run away from home to see him, and basically Paul tells her that he loves her, but basically begs her to come home, and she runs away. But I like seeing that she actually does care about the freaks, and I definitely really enjoyed it. I thought that was definitely very well done in my opinion, and I really, really love that. So that was definitely a very good twist, and one of the best twists I think they did. So Danny, meanwhile, shows the twins a story in the newspaper about successful surgery that's been performed involving a separation of Siamese twins. And of course, this is still going on. And Dot has a genius plan. I honestly thought this was a genius plan. Her plan is that she is going to use Dandy for his money. And it seems as if she's going to play along with this whole falling in love thing. But basically, she has no interest in Dandy at all. Because basically, Bet is falling in love with Dandy. And she confesses this in her diary entries, but Dot's very unsure what Danny's up to and feels trapped. And I really like the twist that, Bet really does care about Dandy, but, Dot doesn't really care about Dandy and doesn't really trust him. So I think that's very interesting, and I definitely really enjoy that, and definitely one of the things that I really loved about the episode in general was the way they did that. And basically she writes, we haven't been beaten or bound by chains, but he has to wonder what dark intentions really. And she basically has this really good fantasy sequence. She dreams that she's going to use Danny for her money, and she's going to separate from her sister. She's going to call herself by her full name. I believe it was like Deborah or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically she really likes Jimmy, and we find out that she's in love with him, which does make sense because the only time that Dot is happy is when she's performing and when she's seeing Jimmy. And I really like seeing that because this season, it really seems to be Bet is the happy one and Dot's the sad one. And it's not that. It's that Dot cannot stand her sister, and she just doesn't like her at all. And she really just wants to run away with Jimmy. So I really love that plot. I love that that's going on. And I think that is very interesting and definitely one of the things I like the most that they're doing this season. I think that's really cool. So then we get a really big scene here because Paul shows up at the drugstore to purchase some perfume for Penny. However, before he can purchase the item, Dandy throws his stuff on the counter, and Paul says that he actually remembers Dandy from when he and his mother came to see the freak show. And he also remembers that Danny tried to buy the twins, if you remember. That makes sense now because, of course, they thought it was like a prostitution thing, but no, he just wanted to buy them because he's in love with them. So Paul notices Dandy's items on the counter, and there are two of everything. It also makes sense why Dandy was so fascinated with the freaks, because he's in love with the two of them. That's really what it's all about. He doesn't care about the other freaks. And we can tell right away because basically he makes the store owner think that Paul was a pickpocket and that he was trying to steal things. So before we can interact any further, basically the store owner throws Paul out of the store. He spits on the window before walking away down the street, and I definitely really enjoy that scene because it really shows that Danny does not give two shits about the other freaks. It really shows that. So I thought that was definitely very well done, and I really appreciate that. So Jimmy and Paul are cleaning up after the night's show, and Paul tells Jimmy about what he saw at the drugstore. And Jimmy is pissed off at this because he can see that Paul's accusing Elsa of getting rid of the twins, and Jimmy slaps Paul. And before Paul walks off calmly, he says that, basically from where he's standing, all he can see is a jealous brood who's willing to get rid of anyone in order to get one last shot of it. And I thought that was very well done because it is kind of true what's going on there. And I definitely really enjoyed that. And it makes sense why Paul doesn't really think of Elsa. That, Paul is accusing Elsa. It makes sense why Jimmy isn't, kind of doesn't believe Paul, because if you remember, Jimmy was, one of the first people that Elsa recruited and everything, and I thought that was very well done. And Dot reads the recent article about the Siamese twin surgery, and one of the twins end up dying because of this, and Beth says that she wishes her sister would understand that they'll always be together, and that science shouldn't work to undo the will of God. And I love how innocent and how clueless Beth is, that basically she just thinks of this inside, her own little fantasy world. And I really do like Beth because of that. I mean, she's not annoying in any sense because she's just very naive. She kind of has the world painted as this beautiful world, and that's not really what's going on here. So I thought that was definitely very well done in my opinion. So Danny said that he's noticed how secretive Dot is because she's being very secretive. You can definitely tell. And he says that they should tell each other a secret. And he goes first, and he admits to them that he actually killed Twisty the Clown, and that Jimmy didn't. And Dot, who's in love with Jimmy, doesn't believe Dandy and refuses to play his secret telling game, which is not true. Edward Mordrake was the one that killed Twisty. We know this, but of course they don't know this. Dandy thinks it was him, Jimmy thinks it was him. So I'm thinking there's going to be like a Danny-Jimmy face-off, definitely, which I'm really looking forward to. And Danny just like blows up at them. He's throwing things around, he's storming out of the room, he's like, this is not going how I want to. He just comes out of the room, he's pissed off and everything. And that was just really, really intense what was going on there, definitely. And that was really crazy. Finn Wittrock, though, as I've said before, he's doing an amazing job. So Maggie meets with Stanley, and we don't actually get too much of them this episode, but we do get something that's very interesting. Because Stanley needs something to sell to the museum. He needs a payday. Because they need to have something there. Because, of course, the deal was if they brought that girl something priceless, she won't ask them questions about who they are. They still have to pretend to be con men. They're still basically gonna con her in the end. And he wants to basically kill Jimmy for his lobster hands. But Maggie doesn't want to do that. And I think that really shows that Maggie does care about Jimmy. And this episode confirms that Maggie does care about the freaks. And she says she has a better idea, something that won't leave behind the evidence. And basically what her plan is to drown Ma Petite in a large glass jar. And we're taking back to the present, and Stanley says Maggie's ruthless, and Maggie says she's going to have to be. And basically that's their plan, so I'm wondering if this is actually going to happen. And I was very interested in seeing what's going to happen there. So we get a quick song with Elsa, which I really liked. I thought the song she sang was definitely very good. Jessica Lange just has a beautiful voice. I love all the singing we're getting this season. We kind of gotten away from it, but I thought this was a good song. It was pretty short, but I liked it. Paul begins to leave, but she asks him for a goodnight kiss. She smells perfume on him and asks who he's been having sex with, and Paul confronts her about the twins. She blows up and asks him to wake everyone up, and he tells her that he doesn't trust her. He doesn't think that, and what I like is that this is not really a real relationship. This is not Fiona and the Axemen. Fiona and the Axemen, that was a real relationship. Those two had a genuine relationship, and that's basically what Fiona did, what Jessica Lange thing was last season was Fiona and the Axemen. But this is different because Paul doesn't really trust her, and he doesn't think that she is telling the truth. So we get a really awesome scene, probably the most awesome scene we've gotten with Elsa so far. This was just amazing. She's blowing up and demands that everyone trust her, and, she's like, which one of you believes that I had something to do with the murder of these girls? And Ethel's asking her how. How can they prove they trust to her? And Elsa says she wants one freak to get on her wheel so she can and I was like, I know what she's going to do. She's going to talk about the Bullseye, of course. So, and I love that she just goes full on freak at them. She talks about how, and I agree with what Elsa's saying. She brought them over here, okay? She gave them a home. She got them away from the people that ridiculed them and made them this their home, and they treat her this way. I understand Elsa's point of view, but at the same time, she did this, and she needs to basically realize that she's the one that put herself into this, okay? She's the one that kidnapped the girls. She's the one that took them to Dandy and Gloria, and she's screwed now. She needs to realize that. So she says that she wants one freak to get on her wheel so she can hurl knives at them. And Jimmy at first is about to volunteer, but then Paul steps off and says that it should be he who takes a turn on the wheel. So I knew it was going to be Paul because Paul, of course, was most suspicious, and I knew the second that we saw him it was going to be Paul. Pretty much. I knew that was going to happen. So basically, Paul volunteers in his place, and it seems to be going well. Two knives miss him, but the third hits him right in the stomach, and that was very surprising. I was not expecting that at all because I was not expecting that to end up happening. But I was kind of thinking, you know what? I think that's what's going to happen here, because I knew this wasn't going to really work out. Because basically, she's so pissed off, she throws a knife right in him, and she doesn't kill him. We think that she kills him, but she ends up not killing him. So I really enjoyed that. Definitely. I mean, I didn't enjoy it. It was really graphic and probably one of the most graphic scenes of the season so far. Not as graphic as all the kills that Twisty did, but still really graphic. And basically, he is, stabbed. Everyone's accusing Elsa. Nobody, trusts Elsa now. And that just, if she wanted to bring back the trust, she just broke it. Okay? She broke it even more than she already did. And she is really upset about that. So Penny tries to run away from home again when her father pulls out a gun. And she talks about how she loves Paul and that she would rather die than spend another day in their middle class. And she goes to circus to find Paul, and she finds out that he is dying, with Elsa whispering in his ear, accusing him of betrayal, and that was amazingly done, because I love that. One of the things I love that American Horror Story does this season, it seems to be the thing they're doing this season. When they focus on a character, they're probably going to die. And I think that's amazing that they're doing that, because it makes us care more for them, and so when they die, it's more effective. If Paul had died last week, I would have been fine. But because we got so much focus on him, now I care more about him, and I definitely really enjoyed that. So Maggie is planning on, Maggie is, it's time for her plan and everything. She goes to Ma Petite. It seems like, in their place, of course, as I said, Stanley wanted Jimmy, but basically, Ma Petite is asleep in her bed, and Maggie wakes her up and carries her away to a shed with Stanley's supplies. And Maggie picks her up, lowers her into a jar, and even begins to lift the jug of formaldehyde before changing her mind. It seemed like she was going to do it, but you can see on her face, she doesn't want to do this. And I think it's because she's been with the freaks for a very long time now. She's starting to feel like them, and I feel that she just is getting so attached to them that she's going to start to refuse to what Stanley tells her. So, you can see right away it's not working, and Jimmy tells Ethel that he's suspicious of Elsa, since the doctor she allegedly called never even showed up. So, Of course, we know that's Dell that did that. We know that Dell said to the doctor, "Don't," we know that was all Dell who said to stay away from Ethel and Desiree. And he then runs into Maggie, who leaves Muppety with Amazon Eve. And basically, of course, the last time they spoke was not on good terms. We knew that Maggie did not really want, Maggie didn't really want to be with Jimmy, but so it's really sudden when she just asked Jimmy to run away with her. And he agrees, but says he has to do one more thing first. And I was like, okay, what's that one last thing gonna do? And I thought this was definitely very interesting because Maggie goes to her tent, she's packing her bag, but it finds Stanley. And this was actually a very genuinely creepy scene. I gotta say, Dennis O'Hare is doing a great job because he realizes that she's trying to escape and threatens her life. She tries to convince him that it's just risky now. It's too risky given the twins' disappearance and Paul's accident. But Stanley insists that she go back to his original plan, which is kill Jimmy. So my question is she actually going to do it? I don't think she's going to. She does not want to be with Stanley anymore. It's too extreme for her. It's too risky. She's not into it. She's enjoying this life and just wants to get away from it all. And I personally think that she does care about Jimmy and she personally does want this relationship with him. And I like seeing that because I knew this was going to happen. I knew that she'd get attached to him and I like seeing that she's getting attached to him because it's making the show definitely more interesting and I definitely really enjoyed that. So Gloria finds Dandy crying, and she brings him his snacks, and he's read Dot's journal. He's read, basically that how Dot can barely tolerate Dandy. She calls him painfully boring, even saying she would rather die than kiss him. Like, that is just brutal what she said. She admits in the journal that she's only there for the money that she can get from him. And Dandy goes on this whole tangent about how his empty soul, which now without the twins is officially devoid of everything. And he tells his mother that he was put on Earth for one thing, to kill. And I thought this was amazing, basically. And, Gloria's like, oh, maybe one of the twins cares about you. Maybe Beck cares about you, which we know that she does. But he pulls this knife out, and I honestly legitimately thought that he was going to kill his mother. I did. Was I the only one that felt like he was going to kill off Gloria? I personally feel that he is. I feel like this is totally going to be like a Norman Bates moment where he just kills his mother, and he's going to go that crazy. But they enter the door to find Jimmy. And Danny invites him in, saying he's here for the twins, and they stare at each other, and we don't know what's going to happen. And when Jimmy finds out what Danny's doing, this is going to be awesome. I freaked out when that happened. I was like, okay, this is about to get amazing. Because I love where they're going with this. I love where they're heading with it. I think it's amazing. And it definitely is one of my favorite parts of what they've been doing so far. I think it's amazing. And then we get to the last scene in this episode, which I love the last scene in this episode. I thought the last scene was amazing and really made us care about Elsa more. And as I said, I love the dynamic between Ethel and Elsa, so I love this too. She goes to the main tent for her birthday cake, and Ethel's the only person there, while everyone else stays with Paul because they don't really trust Elsa right now. So Elsa tells Ethel that she's like the sister she never had, and in return, Ethel says that if she ever found out that Elsa was truthfully behind the twins' disappearance, she would kill her with her own two hands. So she's basically just joking around. She knows she didn't do it, but she did do it. So that's the thing, which is really interesting because I'm wondering if Ethel's actually going to do that. If she finds out that the twins, that Elsa was behind their disappearance, will she actually live up to that? I don't know if she's going to. But she makes a wish, and Elsa's wish is to one thing, to be loved. And that's how the episode ends. And I gotta say, guys, this was by far the best episode of the season. I completely loved it. I thought everything was amazing. There were so many amazing things with this episode, so many amazing reveals, and a lot to talk about. First of all, let's talk about Maggie. I don't think Maggie's going to go along with this plan. I really think that she's just going to turn her back on Stanley because she doesn't want to do this. She really doesn't. And I think that she is going to somehow try to get her way out of this by just going somewhere with Jimmy far away from Stanley. But it seems like wherever Maggie goes, Stanley's right after her. So I don't think that Maggie's going to be able to get herself out of this, but I really hope she does because I really like Maggie as a character. I do. I like her, that she's kind of starting to sympathize with the freaks. I think that's good, and I'm definitely really enjoying that of our character. So I think that definitely is very, very good, and one of the things I'm enjoying the most about the season is her genuine sympathy for them. Now, as far as Danny goes, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't think he's going to, do what Dot wants him to do, that's for sure. We know that Dot wants to get split in half now. We know that's basically her main goal. We'll have to see what happens there. When Dot sees Jimmy, this is going to be interesting because now we have a Jimmy Maggie Dot like love triangle, because Dot loves Jimmy, but Jimmy really cares about Maggie. So who's he really gonna go for? Is he gonna go with Maggie and run away with her, or is he gonna see that Dot really does care about him and maybe try to start a relationship with her? Because that's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. Now, Bet we know does care about Danny, but I don't think it's gonna work in the long run because Danny thinks his main purpose in life is to kill, basically. So Paul's gonna die. It's gonna be really sad to see. I know he's gonna die in the next episode, but I really like his stuff with Penny. I think it's gonna be really sad to see. But do you think that she's gonna stay with Paul? I'm wondering what's gonna happen there. That's going to be very interesting. I'm definitely interested in seeing what's gonna happen with that storyline. As far as Elsa goes, she wants to be loved, and I understand why. It makes perfect sense because this whole season so far, it seems like all she's been obsessed with is fame. But no, she really just wants to be loved by someone because she hasn't been. If you think about it, Elsa's never been loved. There was that soldier that loved her and cared about her, but that was because he was under her compelling him, basically. Not really compelling, but like under her, basically her telling him what to do. That's basically what was going on there, and he liked her control, he liked being controlled, basically. So, I don't know what's really going to happen here, but I love the direction they're going. I think everything happening this season's amazing. I'm so into the season. Like, last week's episode, I still loved it, but this episode pulled me right back in. I loved it so much. I thought it was so amazing. And, honestly, the show is better when it is longer. It really is. It's more interesting. It makes you care about the characters more, and I'm definitely really loving that. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I thought this was just such an amazing episode. I loved it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the Vampire Diaries. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.